has a beautiful story. If you haven't heard it, you will, of how he came to Baba. And you were committed from the very beginning. Can you hear me, Shirin June?
Oh.
Mi fami. Shirin Fan.
She's
gonna put. Okay, I'll come stand over here.
Yeah, and Shireen, can you hear me right here? Oh.
She's going to put her headset on.
Yeah, or put it right next to me.
Yeah, or you.
Or Ryan, you're too far away. Get over here.
Yeah.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah. Okay. So it's a beautiful story. I don't know if you'll go into it today, but he made a very conscious decision of what he was supposed to do in his life. And he knew he had to serve Baba at the Meher Center. And ever since you were young guy then,
Yeah.
really young, you have devoted your...
I'm not.
He is forever young. No.
At this stage of my life, I refer to as composting.
You're forever young. You know that.
Yes.
Okay. And what you have shared from your heart all these years at the Meher Center, you are an icon there. And what it's really about is the heart-to-heart connection. Jeff is always there for the heart-to-heart connection. And I remember Keon was a little baby. And it was like we're going to see our uncle, you know? And that's how Baba was, I feel. It's so familiar and so natural you are. And when COVID hit, he brought so many of us together on Baba Zoom. And bringing Darwin's words and practical spirituality, I call it. And having spent so much time with Darwin, he just exuded all the things that he had learned from these pillars like Darwin and Kitty and Elizabeth. So Erich, oh my God. Yeah. He is a treasure of stories. And you have such a vivid memory of what was said to you.
Hilda, just relax. No. No.
Anyways, so, okay, I have to have the counterpart. One last bit Glenn is going to do. Okay, you go.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Jeff is the universal friend to children, animals, and Baba lovers. This is Meher Baba's spiritual ambassador from Baba's Universal Spiritual Center in the West. Let's give it up for Jeff Wolverton.
Yes.
Friend to all.
Friend to all. Yes.
So, what I thought, some of you can move up closer. I thought, I was thinking maybe I should, if I get to, we had a youth office the last 2 weeks. So I thought, well, maybe I'll get to LA and I can think about what I might say. And I just couldn't get there. So I'm going to speak very informally. I'm going to share, some of the exchanges I had with the Mandali that have been kind of valuable in my life. And I'm hoping there'll be a little bit of something for everybody. But also, don't hesitate to ask questions, because I was in Mandali Hall for thousands of hours, and I heard the answers that Erich and different ones Mani would give. And I was around Darwin, so don't hesitate to ask, so that hopefully it'll be something relevant to each one. But one thing I just happened to remember, because I was talking to David, that Erich was asked back in 1970, is Baba going to become a religion? And Erich said Baba was adamant that it not become a religion. So he said, well, how can that be kept from happening? And Erich said, if his lovers would get together in small groups and share their inner experiences, it could be averted. So, you can't, if each one has such a unique experience, you just can't make a religion out of it. There's just not everybody has their own unique path. So that keeps it kind of out of being institutionalized, So let me think, but I've been at the center for years, decades, and each one that comes there, they're trying to get to a deeper place within themselves and live from there, whether they're Baba lovers or not. The Baba lovers, they want to wake up and have Baba with them first thing in the morning and have Baba throughout the day. And I myself, even though I felt maybe I'll share a little bit of my story of the night that I came to Baba, I was more attracted to Baba the man and what his personality was like, because this was back in the 60s. Baba was still in India, so I wanted to get all the stories about him, and I wasn't so drawn to his. I knew he was God, but that didn't appeal to me as much as Baba the man. So maybe I wasn't planning to tell my story. I'll tell it briefly though. I was back in college in New York City in January 1968. I took this art class, and while most of us were painting these boring still lifes, there was a guy a couple easels over who was painting this magnanimously smiling person. And it's not a typical Baba lover. He got permission to paint Baba in the class. And so he told me about Baba. He didn't tell me really much about Baba. He told me about his metaphysics, but Baba the man, I didn't have any clear idea. But he asked me to go to one of these Baba meetings. And back then there was the Monday night meeting on West 57th Street in Little Carnegie Hall, opposite the famous Carnegie Hall. So he was such a nice guy, I couldn't say no. It wasn't my thing normally. So I found myself going down in the subway with three of us, a buddy of mine and three of us. And the elevator door opens on the fourth story, the fourth floor, and is a hallway. It's about 15 feet wide and 30 feet deep, leading into this recital hall. And my experience was all these old ladies. Fat ladies, thin ladies, Jewish ladies, black ladies, Puerto Rican, and they just came up, introduced themselves, and hugged us. We went from one to another to another. It took us about a half hour just to get through the ladies, The men were a little less effusive, and it was like showing up at a family reunion. Like we were like three long-lost nephews had shown up at a family reunion like this in New York City. Spontaneous love. Usually New Yorkers are a little more discriminating. So anyway, we went into the hall and sat in the back, and they had a movie of Baba and some quotes and everything. They used to have a recording of the Hindu Arti, and they couldn't get it all on one record. So in the middle of the thing, Arti, they take it up, flip the record over, and play the rest of it. It's kind of weird, typical. But so I was at the back, and at the end of the meetings, Ella Winterfeld would ring a bell, and there would be like a 3-minute silence, and they asked us to think of Baba. This is January of 68, so Baba's in India. So I close my eyes and I think, I don't even know who he is. God, I think, like, close your eyes, Radha, and think of my Uncle George. I didn't know. I thought, well, I just come off the street and they already got me meditating on their master. So I thought, it's only 3 minutes out of my life. I just, it's no big deal. So I looked around, and there's a nice feeling in the room. I was not for groups so much, but I'm thinking back now, years later, it was a room full of independents. It actually wasn't a group in the normal sense. There wasn't a hierarchy in an organization to it. So there's a really nice feeling. And then I looked up, and there was a photograph of Baba that they would bring in on a paint easel. Suddenly, Baba's eyes came alive. And the love in his eyes, I knew that is the love that I suspected was at the core of all life. You know, and I knew that he was God. And my whole life was meant to be lived for him. I didn't even think he should follow anybody, but there it was. And Baba began looking at all these, mainly older people. They had, I didn't realize most of them had met Baba, but Baba looking at each one, and he looked at each one like as he looked at them. I could see that each one was his very favorite. Normally you look through a room. Hey, how you doing, Aaron? How you doing? Oh, I mean, there's some gradations in your response. This was total. Baba says, everyone is first in importance and no one is second. And that was there in his eyes. And I remember this going through my head. Oh my God, if they only knew how dearly he loves them. That was one of the thoughts. And the next thing I knew, Baba was right in front of me about that, and I was able to look into his eyes. And it was like looking from the world of time and space through a window into eternity and bottomless love. And there's more to it, but I mean, I don't know if I'll go into that. But I was like, this is the last thing I expected in this rainy, miserable winter night in New York City, to find everything I was looking for. So, and like I said, I was drawn to Baba the man. And luckily, so many of these people, they had met Baba. So after the meetings, we'd go over to this Horn and Hardart, which is one of these automats, the cafeteria. They'd put some tables together with pie a la mode and coffee and everything. And then I'd just sit there and listen to these people talk about their times with Baba, So I'd know how he was with this one or that one, how he intervened in their life, or how he was with kids. All of that I was able to, so that, because I wanted Baba's companionship. So I got to hear, how he was. I filled in his personality. He wasn't just a divine being, but because back then there was a chance we might meet him, so it'd be nice to know him as deeply as possible, what his likes and dislikes were, and his sense of humor and all of that. So and I'm sure, we all are kind of looking. I was like there with a begging bowl, trying to get everything I could about Baba. Going to India, wow, the Mandali were there, and you could do, So anyway, that's my greatest night of my life, where I, totally unsuspecting. So anyway, I started going to India. I also kind of lived up near Darwin and Jean Shaw. And so I thought I'd share some exchanges that I had with Baba, and don't hesitate to ask questions. But I remember in Mandali Hall one time when I was young, I said to Erich, what if I went out last night to a party? It was a wild affair. I got drunk and I carried on. And, I knew Baba wouldn't be happy with it, but I was bound and determined to have a good time. And now this morning, I'm hungover, I have a headache, I feel miserable. Now, I don't want to burden Baba with that. I was my choice. I carried on, and I'm willing to suffer the consequences, of how I feel. Does Baba want me to give him my hangover? Now, Erich is on the other side of the room there, Mandali Hall. He says, yeah. Should I give him my hangover? He says, yes. Give him your hangover. And the embarrassment of having such a meager gift to give your beloved will inspire you next time to have something more precious to offer. And I said, but still, Erich, isn't that always give to Baba whatever you feel deep down. I said, but still, isn't that a burden to Baba? He said, brother, it's a greater burden to Baba to withhold anything from him than to throw on him the worst of yourself. And that was like emblazoned. That came from Baba through Erich into my arms. You know, it's a greater burden to Baba to withhold anything from him than to throw on him the worst of yourself. So Baba's gotten the good, bad, and ugly of me all these years. One of the things, I don't know, I mean, any questions yet? Anybody have a question?
Well, I'll ask about
Yeah.
this. Oh, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
sitting over here.
Yes.
How do you give that to Baba?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll say this is how Darwin taught this buddy of mine I in his low key way. He didn't like push anything on us, but we found that Darwin and Jean, they were enjoying Baba's companionship, and they just hung out with Baba all day. Baba could in their house, and they just had this companionship. And luckily, Darwin remembered how he got there. So we probed him and everything. You know, how do you get to that kind of loving companionship where you've got Baba all day with you? So he was like a wine barrel, and we found it. We could just sprinkles and we punched holes. We bled the guy dry. But anyway, so here's how it happened. So this buddy of mine and I, we wound up by accident, seemingly, in Schenectady, New York, where Darwin and Jean, and we heard that there's some elderly couple who lived there, who had met Baba in the 30s. They went back to the 30s. So one day, we pulled over to one of these telephone booths and looked it up, the phone number, and I got cold feet. I mean, I don't know, it's from Adam. You know, we were young and everything. This is back in maybe 1970. But my buddies just said, he went ahead and did it. And Darwin and Jean invited us right over, and we spent like 3.5 hours with them. And we found out these intimate stories of what it was like to be with Baba. It's going back to the 30s and all. I mean, they had so much experience. So when we were leaving, we decided, well, why don't we we didn't have any particular destination. Why don't we just, why don't we just move here? So we did. We put our suitcases down. Darwin got us a job at the county nursing home, and there we were. And back then, this is kind of the hippie era. You know, a lot of the older Baba lovers, they really emphasized, live in the world and carry out your responsibilities wholeheartedly. But the other thing was remember Baba constantly. Those are the two main. So with that on our banner, we headed off to this nursing home. But this nursing home, it was the infirmary part of the nursing home, where the men were, stroke victims or totally disabled. I mean, and they were short-handed like most hospitals. It was the most exhausting work, the sheer volume. And so when we were, I couldn't remember Baba and do this work at the same time. It was too demanding. So if I wanted to remember Baba, I'd just go down to the hall to the bathroom and lock the door and just sit there and think of Baba. And then I go back and I could get back and I get swallowed up into work and everything. So we had a month of this, and we finally went to Darwin and we said, we're not able to do this work and remember Baba at the same time. We're having great difficulty. So Darwin says, well, maybe you need to create more inner space. And I said, we thought inner space. Now, we'd read everything by and about Baba up to that point. We didn't remember, but we were too embarrassed to say, we haven't read what, inner space. And then he said, then he described the scene with Baba in 1956, where Baba invited the Shaw family Darwin and Jean, and they had 3 teenage kids. And he sat them on the floor. He was in this suite of rooms. And Baba said to them, if you love me, you must give me everything. All your weaknesses and strengths, your pleasures and pain, your good and bad. Give them all to me. Hold nothing back and be free. And this will please me. So that's all he said. He just kind of put it out there, kind of low-key. So I started, give everything to Baba. So I would wake up in this state of dread. I mean, it was like a pervasive dread. I think it was because of that job. But by 11 o'clock, that dread would dissipate, So I started giving Baba this dread. I would focus on it and then imagine it going energetically to Baba in front of me. I'm just, in and behind what I was doing. And what started happening is it wouldn't dissipate after 11 o'clock. It would go all the way to midnight, and then I'd wake up in dread, and then the next day would be dread. And it went on for a month. Nothing but dread. It's getting worse, getting more intense. So I thought, geez, I must be either giving it to Baba and taking it back, or I don't know how to give things to Baba. On the day that I determined just to not do this, Darwin wasn't saying, are you guys doing that practice? No, he wasn't that type. So I decided on the day I was not working, I'm not going to do it anymore. So we were at a cafeteria with Darwin and Jean and a number of us. And at the front, some of you probably heard this, at the front of these cafeteria line are these dinner plates, that are spring-loaded. So I'm there behind, and Baba flashes this to me. You're giving me a plate of bread, and you look down, there's no change. You take another plate, still no change. Still no change. But meanwhile, the stack is diminishing unseen below. You know how the plates come up and, another one comes up. So Baba, convinced me that, it may seem like you're not, that I'm not receiving this, but you're giving this to me layer by layer. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep doing it. When I was discouraged from doing it altogether. And so the next day I said to Darwin, so you're talking about giving things to Baba. So on the next day, I described that scene at the cafeteria. And Darwin said, Baba is impressionless being. Whatever you give to him is gone forever. But there's a layer behind it that looks just like the one you gave him. So give him that one, and then, but everything you give to Baba is gone forever, but it's just one layer, But he said, more important than this, giving things to Baba and having them dissolved, deleted, so to speak, you're making more room for Baba to live in you. You're creating inner space. You're basically emptying out the heart with these things so that Baba, more and more, his presence is there with you. So when we went back to work, we began to be able to do the work and experience Baba simultaneously. It was all under one roof. I didn't have to go down the hall into the bathroom to remember Baba. We got to where we could do the work and have Baba's presence right along with us. So that was the giving. But one day even Darwin said, even the good takes up space. The only thing that doesn't take up space is love. Love displaces nothing. So even the good, we were kind of shocked at that, but to give the good and the bad, the worst things in yourself. And you gradually, over time, you empty out so that more and more Baba begins to live your life, or he's in your presence. It's not like you have to go deep within. He's kind of with you. So that was, but he didn't tell us how to give, but he used to say, the deeper the feeling, the deeper the healing. So say if I have jealousy, if I feel it deeply, not just, oh, Bob, here's my jealousy. Feel it deeply. It's a whole complex. and get in touch with that deeply. I mean, this is what we would do, and then imagine it flowing energetically to Baba. So it's not just kind of like, here's my worry, Baba. I mean, sometimes it works. You can just give Baba the worry and it works. But this is kind of the down in the trenches type of thing. Yeah.
So do you think, like, with the deep feeling of whatever experience you had, or upset or anguish or dread,
Yeah.
do you feel that when you gave it, you know how I understand the conveyor belt kind of the dish. So now I remember it all the time.
Yeah.
It's very helpful, kind of visual.
Yeah.
But do you feel that, sometimes I feel as I'm giving, but I feel like I'm not really giving everything. Even though I'm giving, which I know I am, I feel I'm holding something back. Because then what would I do? You know, if I didn't I don't know how to explain it, but it's like... It's
a little bit scary on some things.
Right.
You're talking about there's a kind of somehow a little hesitation.
Yes. Right, you want to not nurse it necessarily, but it's like, how can I just so easily give it? I mean, there's residue.
Well, and the more you can get in touch with that residue and everything and give the whole thing, but, because if you don't get the mildew out of the house, it'll come back,
Right. So my next question, I know it's things that you got to just experiment with, experience with it. But in the nursing home that you were, and you said you had dread all the time, and at some point you learned that you're working, Baba's there and you're doing your work.
Yeah.
How did that get integrated? I mean, how? Were you like thinking, was it your thoughts were on him and you were doing the work? Or what combination of that?
I mean, I would, when I felt the dread, I would have that flowing to Baba, but it didn't, after a while it stopped flowing a little bit more, and then I had the presence. You know what I mean? I had the presence, so I could do that.
You felt that more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and the presence started to overtake the dread.
Right.
But then, I still can have dread today, But what I mean is you're creating more inner space.
Right.
I mean, I'm just saying this is one of the major ways of following Baba. So more of a conscious journey internally. That's not the only way. I mean, other people have a whole different way. I want to make sure that this Darwin's and Erich, they were talking more about a conscious inner journey, but that's not the only journey. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
I want to hear more about how you got to the center.
Okay.
And how you, and I don't remember the year you started, but I know you've been there forever. So I think I need a little history.
Yeah. Well, I was having this nice meetings and connection with Darwin and Jean up in Schenectady, and I went down on a trip to Myrtle Beach, and I go once a month. I mean, driving 16 hours. I don't know how I did it, but it was so invaluable internally. But anyway, on this particular trip, I was in the lagoon cabin, and Ann Conlon, who had met Baba and everything, she had gotten a call from Kitty to find me. So she located me in the lagoon cabin, so I went in over to the original kitchen, and Kitty is like, oh, yes, she'd talk real fast, and, oh yeah, and we have a job here, and blah, 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 and she's talking away, and would you take this job? And I did not like Myrtle Beach. It is the tackiest 55 miles of strip mall. And I was just, I saw this, when I said yes, I saw this yes leave the continent. And it was like it. I mean, and that was, and the next thing I knew, I was living in Myrtle Beach, And later on, she asked me to work at the center, So.
What year was that?
72, I think, something like that.
And how old are you at this point?
Now?
I'm 72.
72. Can you figure it out? Let's see. I was born in 44. So whatever, however that works out.
You're 28.
28.
28.
Wow.
There was a question back there.
I just asked.
Oh, right here. Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Okay, this is a very, please, can you explain or tell us more about like your experiences with Margaret Brass and Elizabeth Patterson and Kitty Davy,
Kitty.
you know, what they taught you, you know, how you were meditating or connecting with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I mean, that's the biggest thing ever.
yeah,
because
I'll
that-
tell a couple of things that typify this. Margaret,
Yes.
you know, in us we have intuition that Baba says is 100% correct. Intuition is always 100% correct. Accessing it is the challenge. But we have something on our premises that knows, but it has to be kind of separated from the mental projections. The voice of the heart, intuition, has to be distinguished from the voice of the mind. So I'm just saying Margaret Krask, somehow she got rid of that one voice. And so she could actually see very clearly. I mean, I think she was looking at everything. I play a lot of pranks and everything. I couldn't succeed with her at all. She could see everything, you know. So let's see if I can give you. I mean, she would do things like this, Margaret. Like a new lady came to the center, and she's going over to see Kitty, and Margaret was set on the porch off to the side, and Margaret says, "Oh, who are you?" You know, kind of pointedly, and she says, "Oh, I'm so and so. I'm new at the center." And Baba, good. You still have time to escape. I mean, and there were some of us that would take care of Margaret. She was 96 at the time, well, in her 90s. And in the evening, and this one guy, David Silverman, he was like, you know, a little bit of a computer guy, and always kind of wore a white shirt, a blue or what, and blue pants and everything. But he's there with her one evening. He relates this to me. He says, Margaret, you know, I've wanted to, he's 45 and she's 96. Margaret, I've always wanted to have a partner in this life. I mean, someone to share my life with, a soulmate, something. It's, you know, it's never happened. And he looks over at Margaret and said, if you were younger, Margaret, I would have asked for your hand. Oh. Margaret says, I'm sorry, David, but I had in mind a much younger man. I mean, imagine that at 96. She is a gem. Yeah.
When I met Margaret on the porch, she just looked at me and went, pride. And it was so true. It was like I had this buddy of mine. He was walking with her, and he said, Margaret, I don't know what I did in my last life to have such good fortune, to know Bob and everything. It's kind of unexplainable how this happened. And she stops in the middle of the road and she looks at him and says, Walter, what makes you think he was attracted by your good points? She had great truth, yeah.
You brought up this question, if you will. You said love does not take space. Then what does it take?
Love can come, bad can come into this hallway, and it's party time, they'll trash this place. Good can come in here and they start to rearrange the furniture and they put some lamps around, put, you know, curtains on the thing. But love can come in here and just accept it as it is. Love, it doesn't have that, it's not driven to change things, it's driven to accept things. Wow. You know. So, I mean, I always felt with Erich, you know, I felt Erich could come into me completely, knew me completely, but he wasn't in there trying to change things, you know. Good kind of tries to change, but he could come in, even, you know, and if I asked him a question about something in there, he would have permission to say something, But what I mean is love displaces nothing. In fact, it doesn't even create sanskars. It dissolves sanskars. And it comes from other dimension. Like, one of the things that Erich really impressed upon me, my early trips to India had to do with distinguishing between good and love. This is like critical to the harmony of our inner life. And they look almost the same. You have to be a jeweler to tell the difference between a crystal and a diamond. So my early trips were having to try to distinguish between good and love. And there's a line from Victor Hugo, the French novelist, where he says, virtue as in the case of vice, or good as in the case of, bad as a case of good, is a calculated action. But love is not calculated. It wells up in the heart and expresses itself spontaneously. So it comes from beyond into us. It's not part of our sanskars. Our conditioning and our sanskars are all. It's good to have good sanskars, but it's better to love. We go from bad to good to love. But love comes through us, whereas you might say good and bad come from us. Oh, that reminds me. One time, I after a Baba meeting, and I was quite young there, and with Darwin and Jean. Afterwards, there'd be a meeting, and then Jean would serve apple juice and cookies. And so we were standing around, and Darwin just kind of looks over at me casually and he says, Jeff, you are not the personality self. Inside I thought, this isn't me. I thought the whole purpose was to get to know this guy and go on and improving until he reached the goal. And he's basically saying I'm barking up the wrong tree. Now, I had no place to put that, but I thought, well, I'll just file that away and see if I evolve into the truth of that. But he would say that the personality self, like Fritz, or Radha, or Dave, is just a storefront for the soul. And we make such a big deal of the window displays, and we change them with the seasons and everything, when we could go inside and enjoy the priceless merchandise. It's behind this. Darwin emphasized this should be a vehicle. For most people, their personality is their base of operations. That's the major, that paradigm. But actually, it's better that it's a vehicle. It's not the flute that's important. It's people are listening for the music. That's, So to become, Darwin used to say, to become a conduit or a vehicle. It's a different paradigm altogether, and life does much better if a poet will say, this poem came to me this morning. They don't, it really inspires if it came to me. It's coming from that other dimension of love and creativity and everything into us. So, yeah, Roxy.
Hi, I just wanted to first of all say how thrilled I am. You're blessing.
Yeah. What did she say?
I'm thrilled that
I
you're
just
here.
wanted to tell you how thrilled I am that you're here. So
Yeah, this is kind of like the refectory, but a little larger.
The other thing I was going to say, I never had the pleasure to meet any of the Mandalis. So to me, you're an extension of the Mandali because you spend so much time with them. So my main question to you is, as someone who's somewhat a servant leader, you're a servant leader, actually, and I wanted to know, how do you keep that humility? How do you keep your, you've led, I've sat through your Zoom things, you've led people without ever hurting anyone's feelings. And I want to learn that, and I want to know, how do you do that? Just share it with us.
Yeah. Now, let's see. Let me, I just kind of blanked out.
Put you on the spot.
No, that's a good question. Give me, I somehow blanked out. What was the first part of that?
The first part was like, as a servant leader, how do you keep humble? How do you not let things get to your head?
Yeah. Okay.
Like this,
Well, here's an interesting thing. Here's two quotes that go deep in me. Monty used to say, quote this. It's not her own words. I pray, but this is Monty, who's next to Baba her whole life almost. I prayed to you for strength to carry out your work. You gave me weakness, so I would.
Say that again, Will?
I didn't finish it.
Yeah.
I prayed to you for strength to carry out your work. You gave me weakness, so I would depend on you.
So that I would depend on
Yeah. So it's that to know that dependence, to keep that dependency alive, that you're not the source of love. We're always begging love. We are like the moon. The moon is not the source of love. It's just reflected. So ideally, if you can be on your knees and always ask.
Thank you.
There's a line from Rumi. Keep looking at the keep looking at the bandaged place. That's where the light enters you. And never think for a moment that you're healing yourself.
Wow.
The light comes in through the wound. Yeah. And the thing about the mandali that I really saw is Baba knocked out the self-importance.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just give you an idea with Kitty. At one point, way back in the 70s, I determined I'm going to go in and find out how Kitty's doing. Because inside of 45 seconds, we're talking about me and my problems. And so I made a determination. Kitty, how you doing? How it is? And that, I have a story about Baba, and the story would be about what I was going through. But before you know it, we're all talking about me. So I went another time trying to find out how you're doing, Kitty, and this and that, and somehow again we're over here. And so I tried 3 times. And what it was is that the flow and current of her interest in me was so much more powerful than my interest in her. And I was kind of going against the current, and then I'd be like on the side of the river, She's just, how did that happen? Meaning she was looking away from herself. You ask her how you're doing, she says, fine. I mean, here's an interesting thing that a buddy of mine asked Kitty, do you always feel Baba? Oh, no, I haven't felt Baba in years. Baba, Arnavas complained to Baba one time that Arnavas, one of the women Mandali, complained that she wasn't feeling Baba. Baba said, I didn't say to feel me. I asked you to love me. It's, you might even dislike somebody, you even hate them, but if they crash their vehicle into a tree out here and they're thrown out, you will get them to the hospital, probably, right, maybe we can get a poem from Reza at the end. What was I just thinking? Did anybody have any more questions? I mean, yeah.
So the last time I was in Myrtle Beach and we were sitting in the refectory, it was one of the most, it shaped my trip, what we talked about. And I'd love to hear it again, and I feel like it's somehow important for everybody to know this. because it was just so poignant to everybody there. And it was about that time during World War II when the women were saying the prayers, Baba's 7 names of God, and what was going on during that time, what Baba said.
Yeah, I got it. That was what you asked. So, when I first started working at the center, women would ask, whether they were Baba women or not, what was Baba doing with the women? They're up on the hill behind this wall, no contact with the world, not seeing any men. Is this like a Muslim purdah being enacted in this age? And I just didn't have an answer for that. And sometimes I'll put things before Baba, and I'll just put them persistently for years. And I have to have an answer to this. I can't just say, oh, it's a mystery, or that's just Baba's way. I wanted something substantial to share. And so I was about maybe 3 or 4 years later, I was in India, and we went up to Sikori, where Pasi Maharaj, he had an ashram there with, I think there were 72 kind of nuns. They led this very secluded life, very circumscribed life. No contact with the outside world. And Pasi passed on, and Godavari Mai was the lady there. So when I was there, I got a book of discourses by Pasi Maharaj. And one of the chapters was the relationship of husband and wife in Hindu society. This is like around the turn of the 1900s, Hindu society. And Upasani said in this discourse that there are 3 types of samskars. One is the sattvic samskars. They are kind of pure and innocent and refined. That's embodied by the wife. And that's the proper atmosphere for the children to grow up in. She cultivates that. The husband goes out to work in the world, and he picks up rajasic impressions, which are heavier. And then the worst ones are tamasic, which are less greed, anger, jealousy, all that. But the complementary role, he's talking, the complementary role of a husband and wife in that society is that the husband picks up these heavier samskars, and they are dissolved in the more sattvic, more refined, innocent, pure impressions in the home. So that's the complementary relationship. Then Upasani says these women here perform that same role for the whole world. The density and heaviness of the world come here, and they are transmuted. That's even though they're part of this higher purpose, but they were not necessarily aware of it. But that was their function. So I thought, well, maybe Baba was doing that up on the hill with the women Mandali, this very secluded life. And then what happened is a few years later, there was a woman in Colorado. She had a dream or vision or past life recollection in the night of seeing herself in the concentration camps, in the gas chambers, all the people being gassed. They were huddled together and saying prayers and everything. And she was witness herself. They were lifted up, and they were all carried together. And down below to this place, there was this hillside with these little buildings and everything. And from one of the buildings, there was this chant was coming. Very healing chant. And they remained there for a while in that realm. And then they each went on to the next stage of the afterlife, individually. So that woman had this experience. Then a year later, she heard of Baba. Someone convinced her to go to India. So she signed in down at Lower Meherabad and then started up the hill to Baba's tomb. And as she went up the hill, this is where they were all purple. And as she went up the hill, as she came toward the tomb, the women Mandali used to come every 2 weeks to pay their respects from Meherzad. As she's coming to the tomb, they're singing that very same chant, the 7 names of God. Yeah. So I thought, well, that seems like a pretty, clear explanation. Then someone came to the refectory a few years later and said that Meher had said that all the people from the Holocaust came through the upper room. And she had thought it was the upper room at Meherzad where Baba stayed. But Baba didn't start staying there until 1944. It was the upper room at Meherabad where Baba had the women and men Mandali, women and Eastern and Western Mandali were doing this. And they were singing the 7 names of God in the morning for 45 minutes, in the afternoon in the evening for a half hour, all through the war years. So, anyway. And I remember I was kind of embarrassed as I wrote this. I shared this in Washington, D.C., and they asked me to write it up, and then they put it in their newsletter. And I'm thinking, oh my God, that might go to India, and the women Mandali are there. I put all these caveats, that might be the case. This might be, So I got there, and it was like, Meheru, and they're there, and a little bit kind of presumptuous. But then this one of my friends was walking with Marilyn Jesawala, and he said, "Did you read that article by Jeff in the Washington D.C. Newsletter?" She said, "No, I was there when he gave that." He said, "Baba is now letting out the secrets." So I felt all right. But, sometimes if you pursue Baba long enough, you will get a genuine answer. I mean, he will do it. I was persistent. Because, it's just not, hey, wait, while I'm thinking of it, here's a quote, if I can find it. Something that Baba said about the role of women. But I have to say, I've seen the source of this, but it's not exactly the exact wording, but it's pretty much the same. Think of some more questions while I'm doing this. Oh, Baba. Where is it?
Can we have your phone?
Yeah, what's in there?
I know people send me great things.
While you're looking, you shared something yesterday, and I said, I'll remind you, maybe you can share it at the center.
Yeah.
The quote was, "Not too near, not too far."
Okay, yeah. This is. I hope that I can explain this because it has been invaluable in my life. But let's see.
Oh, you found the other quote.
Shoot. Dang it. Something is messed up here.
Are you trying to expand it?
Yeah, I can't kind of expand it. So here's a thing. I mean, I hope this is relevant to you guys.
You want to expand it? That'll expand it.
Dang.
Okay, then.
No. What I'm trying to do is find that quote. This isn't the entire quote, but Baba says, woman has to be liberated, not in order to become either an imitation, either be man's imitation or his enslaver, but in order to become something new, something more than she has ever been until now. And in so doing, to inspire men to become more than he has ever thought of being, more than he has ever been willing to become. Her role is to awaken.
Wow.
So,
Could you read that again?
Uh-oh.
Oh, no,
I'll get it to you.
I got it on my computer.
I have it on my phone.
Oh, good.
Mark
Read
shared
it.
Okay, I'll just go away. Okay. All right. Women have to be liberated, not in order to become man's imitation or enslaver, but to become something new, something more than she has ever been until now, and in doing so, to inspire men to become more than he has ever thought of being, more than he has ever been willing to become. Her role is to awaken.
Now, but there's another.
And the top part, the value of the feminine?
Yeah, do that. This is the first
full
paragraph.
The values of the feminine hold love, tenderness, and service to others. These values cannot be something demanded of women by men for his enjoyment or advantage, but as qualities he must value in her and develop within himself.
Wow.
Yeah, beautiful.
Does that mean gay men are screwed? I'm teasing.
No, good point.
We get the benefit of both energies.
Baba, what?
Baba said that?
Yeah, that's Baba.
Where can we find it?
I know, that's the man right there. Grab him, but don't let him leave. So here's one that this. Oh yeah.
Just make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you just do?
Yeah. Sorry. No, just
I want to know how to do that.
Yeah, so you hold it on that.
This one.
Say what was that?
I got it.
She's asking what level of spirituality or path you are in.
Oh. No, the thing Darwin Shaw used to say, sooner or later you discover you're nobody, and that is not an unhappy discovery. In other words, you want to empty out the warehouse so Baba can live in you and you become the witness. A buddy of mine, Daniel Ladinsky, was with Erich, and Erich said, "There's been no Erich for years. Through Baba's grace, I have become the perfect witness." So you get outside and you see that what you thought was you had been Baba all along, playing the role of Erich. But he is no longer Erich. He is witnessing Erich as Baba rather than Erich as himself. Now that's PhD level Baba. Don't think you got to get there next weekend. Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about like your connection or just like the role of Mani and Mera? I know that's a big double ask, but I'd love to hear more about both of them.
I went back in the 70s. I remember Adi saying, Adi was an expert on God Speaks. And in there are these roles around the Mandali. Someone plays the role of Peter, someone plays the role of John. Erich was the role of Peter in this time. Bao was the role of John in this Advent. But he said, Baba surprised him one day and said, Mera is always the same one. So Mera is eternally here, just like Baba. She is divine And I did feel that, even though she never liked you to relate to her that way. She wanted you to be normal. In fact, just to tell you how unself-important Monty was, Heather Nadell was at the center kind of more recently, and she was walking with Mara one day, and Mara said, Heather, do you think I'll be born into a Baba family in my next life? And Heather said, Mara, I don't think you have to worry about that. And Mara said, yeah, Goer said the same thing to me this morning. I mean, this is the beloved of the beloved. Baba said, Mara and I are one. She is my very breath without which I cannot live. You know, but I think, her status during her lifetime was kept kind of under wraps because they would have had to have bodyguards around her. You know, especially Hindus, they would have, well, you know, this is a divine being. She is like, you know, Mary, she was married to Jesus. We never know which one. Radha to Sita, you know, Ram, Sita, Rama. Krishna, and Radha and Krishna. Shoot, you're goofing up. Anyway, you know, the counterpart. And she is here. Oh, man, let's see. Where's my computer? Right there. I'll find a... Well, anyway, here's one thing that you brought up, and I'll describe this. I mean, we would all be God realized now if it wasn't for others. You know, and Baba said the path is through people. You know, you think you can kind of do it in isolation. But, I mean, this is just my opinion. I feel the masculine is Baba in me. The feminine is the Baba in each other. But they both, when Baba says, when the feminine and masculine are both fully developed in us, that's another description of realization. But they both have to be, you can't just do one side of it. And so this is kind of what I inherited from Darwin and Erich, primarily. Baba, when he was in Hollywood here back in the 30s, he told the men, not too near, not too far. You know, in relation to other people. Not too near, not too far. Now, well, I should back up. Darwin used to say, and I feel this to be true, that we are embodiments of divine love right now, not in the future, but we are, the ocean of divine love is flowing through us right now. It's not like, it's like on an overcast day, we say the sun isn't out. The sun is there, you know. The divine love we have right within us. But then it has to go through our personality self. It has to go through our selfishness. So this ocean gets reduced to, you know, a little rivulet or stream, or maybe a river if we're lucky. And in the case of a lot of people, just a few miserly drops. So it has to go, this love that we are, you know, it's not that love grows, it's just the clouds kind of start to lift, and the love that we are comes through. And so there's a quote of Baba's from the 70s that I kept in my wallet until it eventually shredded, where Baba said, and it's helped me in relation to people, where Baba said, all differences between one another are merely superficial and cannot affect the love we feel for each other deep down. Meaning we already love each other. It's not that love grows. The obstacles, the things that make it seem otherwise, get gradually removed. And then you find, hey, Fritz, what are you doing here? You know, I mean, we have loved each other all along. So that's, I mean, that, so here's,
say that again.
What? All differences.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah.
Go.
All differences between one another are merely superficial, comma, and cannot affect the love we feel for each other deep down. I mean, the soul can back that. The soul will never back anything less than that. You know what I mean? Our own soul. If we think that, well, I don't like that. One time someone said to Eric, Eric, so some people I just don't like. You know, and some people in Mandali all kind of tittered. Eric said, you may dislike somebody, but never assert that you have the right to dislike anyone. You may dislike somebody, but never assert that you have the right to dislike anyone, because your soul is not going to buy into it. It jars the soul. It might, you know, inflame the ego and expand it, but the heart and the soul will never go for it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I always thought, my thinking would think about Meher being acclimated to being with men after Baba's dropped his body. But I never thought about the rest of the women in Mandalay having that same experience until you just talked about them being isolated up on the hill. Can you talk about that? I just never even heard anybody talk about it.
Say that again exactly.
Well, we talk about how Meher started having men in their life after Baba dropped his body. But were the women Mandalay is equally isolated, and therefore also needed to be acclimated once.
Yeah, I mean you could embrace Mani and Meheru and all of them, but as a men we couldn't. But Meher came out. Baba had her come out and see the men in January 31st, 1968. She came out, and the men Mandali paid their respects to her.
1 year.
Exactly 1 year.
Wow.
Because she, unbeknownst to her, she survived Baba by 20 years, you know.
Yeah.
But she was, I felt with Meher, I mean, sometimes when she would just glance at me, my whole body would glow. I would feel it. She looked, most of us look at everything partially. You know, I look at Ellie, but then there's her family, and there's, you know what I mean? Meher looked at you completely. From wholeness to wholeness to wholeness. And we're going from, you know, partial to partial to partial. I mean, it's like a little child that looks at a flower. And that flower is the whole attention. Meher, I never saw eyes quite like hers, you know. Not that she was like not totally unaffected, actually kind of divinely shy, I would say, Meher. You know, she wasn't, they had to, Meher, the women Mandali inside the house, when we were coming out on the porch of the main house, they would have to give her a pep talk to get her to go out on the porch. And they said, no, Baba, we want you to talk, Baba, we want you to talk, share, you know. And at a certain point, she'd kind of straighten up and then just come out and then come and sit down in the chair. But that's shy. And this is the beloved of the beloved, you know. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something. This is, there's, this was a turning point in my life, and you might find it valuable. Sometimes the Mandali would say things, just a little comment, and it could be like changing. Even they might not even know the effect of it. So anyway, back in the mid-70s, I was at Meherazad, and Meher was on the porch, and there was one lady next to me down below. She was coming to the end of her pilgrimage, and she was going back to the west. I was just there, and I was going to be going back to Meherabad. And Meher is looking down at her, and she says, you know, take Baba with you, take his name, he loves you, he'll support you, you know, he loves you. She go along that line, and then she says, sometimes we feel empty and depressed, but we know Baba wants us to be cheerful, so we make efforts to be cheerful. Inside, I'm kind of my young kid, I'm thinking, she's like next to the source of all love, if she hasn't mastered the experience of having a joyous heart full of Baba's love, love must be something different from what I thought. I mean, how could she do that? And because, see, my own experience is I could feel Baba's presence and everything, and then I'd lose it, and I'm thinking, what did I do wrong? I did something wrong. I've lost it and everything. But after that, I never cared how I felt, I mean, she was the most loving person I'd ever been with. And she's saying that she sometimes feels empty and depressed. So after that, I just never felt bad if I was in a low mood. And I saw the moods are like the seasons, There's the springtime of moods, and you're joyous and everything's new and fresh. But then the heart can't stay in spring. It has to move to the summer, where it's scorching sun and things dry up and everything. But then it moves to the fall. It's invigorating. There's life, and then it moves to winter, and everything dies back. The cycle of moods goes like that, but Baba's love is behind it. So I never really, if I feel empty, I don't take it like I've done something wrong personally. It's the cycle of the moods. Or kind of like, if I think of my consciousness is like the Earth's atmosphere, and there's a hurricane going through it or a storm going through it. If I identify with it, then I get buffeted around by the winds. But if I don't, that storm will pass through me much more quickly. I know it's so easy to take how you're feeling as who you are, your mood. For years I would wake up and I'd say, Jeff, how you doing? And I'd check my son's scars. I wouldn't check my relationship with Baba and think, wow, oh God, I got to go in that boss and I got to go through that again. And that would color my day, because I would check in with my son's scars rather than the great privilege of having Baba in my life. So, it's... Oh, but I wanted to take, I don't want to, you guys was anybody falling asleep yet? No. Oh, yeah. Here, this is, not too near, not too far. God, I got way off of that. So here's what. We are emanating love right now toward everyone and everything. But it happens beyond time and space that's happening. But now we have this heart that is in time and space, and it can be hurt. And when the heart is hurt, the flow of that love stops. It shuts down. So if you get too near to somebody, and they have a prickly personality and everything, and they snap at you, it can hurt the heart, and then the love stops. Or if you get too close to them and they feel their privacy is being invaded, they might lash out at you. So you have to find a position in relation to that person so that they can be prickly, but you're back far enough that the flow of love can still happen and their prickliness is not shutting down your heart. You follow? So that's... And the same thing, a lot of, people they have their heart too far back. And so they miss out on the joy of the give and take of love with others, So there's a positioning. But like I said, I could be talking with somebody and there's a nice give and take and flow. And then we get on politics and then, whoa, and I have to kind of reposition myself because we may, because the whole thing might get shut down because of our differences in political views. So the heart, we have to be kind of careful where we place our heart. And the nice thing about it is that then you don't blame somebody for hurting you. If I get hurt by somebody, I take it like I didn't position my heart. I position myself too close to them. Or if I'm too far back and they say, yeah, you're so remote and impersonal, You know what I mean? I'm getting, so you have to be careful where you place your heart. So, I mean, our duty is to keep that flow happening. But what happens with a lot of people, and I see it, they don't like that person. They have a negative reaction, and their consciousness shrinks down to the size of their reaction. You know, so they drop into the lower frequency. But it's possible to love somebody and dislike them at the same time. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. Really. And I'll give you a nice exchange with Agnes Barron. Agnes Barron was a prickly, abrasive person. I found her that way. It didn't bother me, but so she was kind of, so she was driving Bob. Bob was there at Marymount in 1956, so she was driving Baba down to L.A. here, and she says to Baba, you know, Baba, sometimes some people just don't like me. And Baba says, but I like you. You know. But then when she got here, she had a conflict with Ivy Deuce. And, you know, they were like oil and water. So she says to Baba, this is the way she was, Baba, you say we should love everybody. I don't love everybody. What are you going to do about it? And Baba said, Agnes, you love everybody, you just don't like everybody. So these things are deep, you know, these are our little helps from Baba.
That's great. So
that we can maintain that inner harmony and not keep losing it kind of by trying to do stuff that, that creates an unnecessary conflict. You know. Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to say, I met Agnes, and if you worked with children, you were golden.
Yeah.
And I work with kids, and so immediately I accepted, but she was prickly with everyone.
Yeah.
But if you work with kids,
yeah.
you're okay.
And see, and she had a heart of gold.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if Baba would say that to everybody, you know, that you love everybody, but you don't like everybody. I mean, but she had a heart of gold. She would move heaven and earth for you and everything. Even if she didn't like you, she would. You know, if there was a need, she would respond. So she had the universal love, but she, you know, her sun stars. Yeah, I mean, our sun stars like some people. They compliment someone, and they, you know, like, you know, if Radha grew up with classical music, and I'm into rock and roll or something, you know, there's, you know, it's hard to blend those two things. So our sanskars come up, but it's really on the all differences between one another are merely superficial and cannot affect the love we feel for each other down. So that's the thing, is that we take it so seriously. You know, I mean, my shirt might clash with, you know, with Payam's shirt. And,
you blend quite well.
Yeah. So what I mean is,
colors.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. But we make that real, and the love that we have gets second place. You know, so we are meant, like Darwin would say, we are meant to love. We're meant to flow. And Darwin used to say, we have there's an inner current in each of us from the heart. But that inner current for most people is going this way, toward I, me, and mine. It has to be reversed, and we flow out to the world around us. But it's at a heart level. It doesn't necessarily have to be expressed outwardly. Sometimes you don't want to express that flowing current towards somebody in case they might get the wrong idea, you know. But to be aware of this current has been a practice of my life from, I would say, from Darwin. So that, like suppose, how do you know you have this current? Well, suppose someone comes through that door there that I've had a very painful history with. Suddenly that current will stop. It gets arrested, And then that's where the work begins. You have to reverse that, you have to flow out to that person. If I don't flow out to that person, I diminish myself by that much. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. We're meant to flow all the way to the far corners of the universe, or we get stopped by this thing or that thing,
So how do you prevent it from stopping? I mean,
well,
what can you do?
Yeah. I mean, of course, Baba's name, Baba's name has been invaluable. So, see, what happens sometimes in the course of the day, my current starts to stall out, And so sometimes I have to get Baba's name going, or hang out with a kid, and the kid kind of gets me flowing, or reading poetry, but my responsibility is, I take it, to watch that current, and when it starts to stall out, I have to, it's like if you leave your refrigerator door open for a few minutes, the motor starts up. So you have to kind of get that motor going. But I'll give you an example. When I wake up in the morning, I can be very groggy. And so I'm basically in a stalled situation. The fog is heavy. And so I have to go on with Baba's name, on, and then I say the prayers. And I'm centering myself as I do my morning routine, so that by 8:30, the fog is lifted. Baba's presence is what fuels my day, and not the fog that I woke up in. And that Darwin used to say, waking up in the morning is like finding yourself in a railway platform. Don't take the first train going out. You might wind up in Newark, New Jersey. You want to, you stay centered in Baba on the platform long enough that you can choose the train of intention and everything that you want to color your day. So like I say, when I stall out, when I'm flowing, I don't say, where's Baba? Baba is the flow. What should I do? Well, the flow kind of tells me what to do. And the day, instead of being just kind of ordinary, there's some carbonation that comes in. There's a little bit of timelessness and spaciousness when my heart is flowing. When it's stalled, I have a hard time. Where's Baba? He's over there. He's not. And what should I do? Well, my mind will come down and say, well, try these things. None of these options are worth doing. And then the day becomes just ordinary. There's no liveliness, or so there's a reason to do that work. And once I get flowing, then the day has some sparkle. I don't have to kind of mentally figure out what to do next. It all unfolds. So that's a practice that I've done my whole life, thanks to Darwin, because Baba talked about the inner life, and I thought it would happen automatically. But Darwin said, no, you can get in and be proactive about creating your day so that it's rich and lively, rather than kind of boring and humdrum and all that. So you wake up in the wrong side of the bed. You don't inflict that on everybody in the course of your day. Any other? Yeah.
So you talk about that not too near, not too far.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is related, or I guess I'm asking you, is it related? I may not be saying it correctly, but there was a quote I remember, like, be in the world but not of it.
Yeah.
And so are those two things maybe related in some way? Or, because I think it was a certain situation where that I read that Baba was dealing with someone who, felt felt that they needed to renounce their whole life, right, and follow him, and he was saying, no, you need to, you need to do your duty and your responsibilities, but you can still do that for me and with me, And I think it came around to be in the world but not of it. And, I always wonder, I always liked that quote, and I'm just not sure exactly what it meant, but it always struck me as significant. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's, how to bring that into practice in a way where you're not picking up residue, where you kind of remain free. If you do too little, you get some residue. If you do too much, you get residue.
Yeah.
I know an icon. What's that?
When she said something about that this is not the reality, that only Baba's the reality, and so I'm wondering if that's kind of what he was trying to say.
The beautiful thing, I'll tell you, when I first got into Baba, I was in New York, really early on. And I had 3 days in which I saw this all as a dream. And it was a horrible experience. God, I can't do anything here. It's just like an illusion. And so I was very disturbed for about 3 days, but on the third day, Baba conveyed to me, even though it's all an illusion, it's always worthy of your most loving attention. So even though it's all an illusion, it's always worthy of your most loving attention. And that bridged the heart and the illusion, And that's the way you can be in the world, but not of it. Be wholehearted about what you do. Oddly enough, you can be wholehearted about something, and someone can take away the object of your wholeheartedness, but hopefully they don't take away your wholeheartedness, so you can move your wholeheartedness to something else. And we have to do that. We might lose our husband, we might lose our dog, we might, the object of our, of our love comes to an end. They say, grief is love that has no place to go. You have to find a new object. I mean, of course, we can turn to Baba with that, but still, we're human, and there are people you can. It takes a bit of recovery, but to be wholehearted, even if you are, we're going to lose at some point, but they can't take away your wholeheartedness. I mean, if you try to play it safe, you're going to miss out in the fullness of life, I would say. If you're, I don't want to be wholehearted, I don't want to commit to that, and I'm safe, but you may miss out in some of the beauty of life. Yeah.
I'm looking at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And,
let's get out
wait,
of here.
Wait. We have a little light lunch, and lots of people brought sides. We can hang out and hear you, and I'm sure you'll continue. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
But Jeff, drink some water.
Oh, yeah.
And
hey, thank you.
Mother's project.
Yeah. And then before we leave, she has to say the final word.
Oh, of course. And you are multifaceted. In one person, there's so many sides of you. And my gosh, your music and your voice.
I don't know.
So we can't.
I don't know. We'll see. I just went from the shower to the living room.
What?
As far as singing.
With light from his pure love, I wind my way, on a road no distance knows, only today, oh, far behind is yesterday, from the stars and their dreams. my lips the pure song of the name of Meher. Farewell, oh ancient world, I feel so young, I feel so young. No more your iron chains, on his swift glance my heart is hung. Oh, far behind is yesterday, from the stars and their dreams, till the wind brought to my lips the pure song of the name of Meher. On hopelessness alone, I place my trust, I place my trust. My destination lies within the dust, within the dust. Oh, far behind is yesterday, from the stars and their dreams, till the wind brought to my lips the pure song of the name of Meher.
Thank you. I hope there was a little something for everybody.
Oh my God.
You know, really. I mean, I'm I think of a stenographer. I took this all down and listening to Erich and Monty and Mara and all of them. You know.
And Sunday nights, usually, there's Baba Zoom, Jeff is there, and it's a wonderful place to just exchange and ask questions, and so it's added so much for me. And if you can't make it, you just watch it later.
Yeah. Just so you know, I'm one of those.
Oh,
I watch
good.
it after.
Oh, thank you.
And I look forward
Yeah.
to it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
7 o'clock on Sunday.
Yes, our time, 7
yeah.
o'clock.
Are we having one tonight?
No,
More. Yes. Tonight, Meher Baba ki jai.
Oh, wait.
Meher Baba ki jai.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
And before you go, she has to say it, because at the end of our late night chats, I get her to say this, because this is what Mara's voice. I mean, the quality of this voice reminds me so much of Mara.
Yes. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Jai Baba. Now I can eat.
Oh.